The podcast you're about to hear is my 51st Takes podcast that was around 2 years ago. We only did about 7 episodes, but here they are, and I'm bringing them into the Pat Rick Productions brand, and I'm going to be continuing it here on the YouTube channel, looking into maybe pushing it out to other mediums here soon. So I hope you enjoy. Some of the movies are a little bit older, but there's some of the ones that are still fun to watch today. So I hope you enjoy them. Hello, my name is Patrick, and welcome to 51st Takes, your number one place for movie reviews and takes on modern movies here. Today's going to be a weird day, since we didn't have any movies, wide releases coming out this week. I decided just to spend the day and answer your guys' questions that you have on movies. You guys tweeted at me, you guys emailed me. I thank you very much for those responses. If you guys want to ask a question for future podcasts, feel free to tweet at me at 51st Takes, or you can email me at 51stakes@gmail.com. So feel free to send out an email and or tweet at me, and I'll be sure to get to your question as soon as possible. Without any delay, our first question comes from Tori Negral at tgrawl620. She asks, who is my top 5 baddie list? This is a very good question. I actually had to look up, because I was just blanking on bad guys in movies, but I had to look up some bad guys out there, and I was just amazed by all the ones I was forgetting. But I created a list here for you guys, and here it is. At number 5, I have arguably my favorite Spider-Man villain at Doc Ock. Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire is still, I know I'll probably get some hate for this, but it's still my favorite Spider-Man. I still think it's better than Spider-Man Homecoming. But Dr. Octopus and his character arc beats, I believe, any of the Spider-Man villains cinematically that we've seen to date. Also, his movie, like I said before, is the best movie out of any of the Spider-Man villains. So he's coming in at number 5. Number 4, I have Hans Landa. If you guys don't know who that is, it's the Nazi bad guy in the movie Inglourious Basterds. He does a great job of performing that role. Christopher Waltz is the character that plays him, and it's just you just see how cynical and deniable that he really is, and he comes in at number 4 on my bad guy list. Number 3 comes from the new movie. I think you guys may have heard of it. That just broke $1 billion this weekend. And that is Infinity War, and that is Thanos. I'll go back to, if you guys haven't listened to my Infinity War review, I cannot talk enough about Thanos and Josh Brolin playing him. His character arc is phenomenal, and I just can't stop talking about enough how good he was in that role. Number 2 comes probably the from an Academy perspective, won an Oscar for this role, the one and only Heath Ledger's Joker. I still remember sitting in the theater watching him, and I didn't believe that was Heath Ledger to begin with. So Heath Ledger is just amazing, and I'm sorry that he's away from us now, but it's just we're still talking about that character to this day, and comes in at number 2. And finally, my number 1 all-time big baddie. You'll hear me, some of my friends calls me a Star Wars homer, but it is none other than Darth Vader himself. This is probably the bad guy every bad guy strives to be. His character arc throughout his trilogy, the first 3 movies, Star Wars, is that you see he just comes in and he's immediately a badass, and then you see him have a redemption at the very, very end. But he comes in as the number 1 bad guy for me. And yeah, those are my top 5 bad guys. Thank you very much, Tori, for that question. The next questions here do have Infinity War spoilers in it, so if you haven't seen Infinity War, please go see Infinity War, and come back here and listen to these questions. If you haven't checked out my Infinity War review, it just came out last week, so go ahead and give that a listen also. But yeah, without further ado, the next question here is: did the end credit scene help or hurt the MCU? Did it just cause more diehard fans to have questions? And that's a good question. If you guys walked out of Infinity War without seeing the end credit scene, one, you know better, there's always an end credit scene, but two, it's very sends a stress signal to the one and only Captain Marvel. And then, so the questions that he's probably asking here is, where has Captain Marvel been throughout all this time? And I will go to Iron Man 2 and him saying that he Fury says to Iron Man, "Are you the only superpower being that I have to deal with?" And at that time, I don't think he was talking about Thor too much. I think he's talking about Captain Marvel and the experience that he had with Captain Marvel throughout the 90s. So where's she been? Why just now? Since she's obviously her movie that comes out set in the 90s. Her movie, where's she been all this time from the 90s? Is she going to have that Wonder Woman effect where Wonder Woman came in at World War II and hasn't been anywhere to seen since modern day? Is it going to have that effect? Is she going to be out in the cosmos? I don't think this, I think that's, did this hurt the MCU? I don't think so. It's best, my opinion is, if a movie leaves you with a lot of questions, I think it did its job correctly. The reason why I say that is the fact that you're continually talking about that movie means that it had some sort of effect on you. Now, it may not be a good effect, but any effect I think is the goal to have for a movie to have. So the fact that it left you with more questions than not, I think that was the purpose, and it was going to give us some tie over until we see Captain Marvel this November, I do believe. So yeah, that to answer your question, I don't think it hurt the MCU, and the fact that it asks more questions, and I think that's the whole goal of it. So that's the answer your question there, Martin. Next question here is from Mitch. Thank you, Mitch, for asking this question here. He asks, do we wish there was a little bit more dialogue between Black Widow and Dr. Banner in Infinity War, since it has been 2 or so years since they were... He said since they were in love, but since they were set to be a thing. I think that's a tough question, especially from the Infinity War perspective, because there's so many characters that were in the movie. I think it was really hard to give each character enough time in the movie, especially, and I think I said this in Infinity War, my Infinity War review, but this was obviously more of a Thanos story than it is an Avengers story. Like, in all honesty, it probably should have been Thanos Infinity War versus Avengers Infinity War, because just how much screen time Thanos had and just the overall arc that he had in the movie. But going back to the actual question, I think it was very difficult to give every single character what they needed, and if they would have spent an extra 2 to 3 minutes on Black Widow and Banner's relationship per se, and if they had to do it with that, then they would most likely would have to do it with almost give every single character their due. The movie would have just, I think that would hurt the pacing a little bit. So that the fact that they had made a small little wisecrack joke from it, I think it did enough until we get to the next movie, which I think we'll see a little bit more. At least my prediction, which I'll have a prediction about Avengers 4 and probably on a later podcast, but I have a prediction where that may come in place. So yeah. So to answer your question, I don't. It's very hard to determine if we wish for a little bit more, because I think there's a balance that we have to have with these characters and stuff like that. So thank you very much, Mitch. All right, and the next question here comes from Kayla. She emails in, is Lady Sif ever coming back? And she has a secondary question, do Valkyrie and Korg make a comeback also? This is a very tough question. I'll go to Lady Civ. I don't think obviously we haven't seen her since Thor 2, and the other appearance that we see her in is in the Agents of Shield TV show. So we haven't seen her in a long while. It does not surprise me if we don't see her again. And this is the first time the MCU has done this. They've done this with the Incredible Hulk movie with Betty Ross. There's been several other characters throughout the MCU which we just don't ever see again, and it's nothing against that actress or Lady Siv's character to begin with. It's just the fact with something with Infinity War and the overarching story that they want. There's just not enough room. Now with Valkyrie and Korg make a comeback, this is really tough because in Infinity War, spoilers, like I said, Thanos does a pretty good job of wiping out all of the Asgardians here. So it's a 50-50 shot. I mean, it depends on if it all depends on does the Russo brothers and Feige have a spot for them in Avengers Avengers 4. If there is not a 100% realistic, not realistic, but if there's not a storyline that they want to play with those two characters, I don't see where they fit in. Like I said, it's a 50-50 shot. If it depends on if they have. It's in wrestling we always joke around saying don't put them out there if you don't have anything for them to do. If they don't have anything for Valkyrie or Korg to really do, I don't really see a place for them in Avengers 4 movie. Now we may see them down the road, maybe in another Thor movie, depending on if Thor stays alive in Avengers 4. So we may see them down the road, but but in the immediate future, in the next 3 movies, I don't really see a place for either 3 of these characters. The next question here comes from Martin again. He asks, did Star-Lord diminish himself as the leader of the Guardians in his actions in Infinity War? I would argue that he was never really the leader to begin with. I would argue that Gamora is the leader of the group. If you look at the group dynamic, they always really truly wait for Gamora to be on board with it, and it's usually Peter having to convince Gamora that to do something or to make a play on something. So I would argue that Gamora was more the leader to begin with. Now, did it diminish his character at all? I don't know. I know between me and my friend group, pardon my French mom, but he's probably the most not shit character throughout the whole entire movie. It's just like, come on, you almost had the gauntlet off. So did he diminish himself as a leader? I would just say that I would just argue that he wasn't the true leader of the Guardians to begin with. So that would be my answer to that. All right, next question here we have from Jimmy. Thank you for emailing this question in. He says, can a July release of Ant-Man and Wasp and a March release of Captain Marvel hold fans till the next Avengers movie? This is a good question. I am very confused about Disney's idea of how they release movies here. The reason why is Infinity War don't make a crap ton of money. It's already made $1 billion in little over a week. And I think this movie is going to have legs and it's going to be making a lot more money in the future going on from throughout the summer months. And with Ant-Man releases, I believe, July 6th. And I think that is too close to Infinity War. I'm surprised that they have the Star Wars Solo movie coming out only a month later. I think that's almost too much time, too little time to have another Disney property come out. I almost would have rather seen at least with the MCU perspective, Ant-Man come out in that August time frame. And I think that gives it just a little bit enough time that it doesn't take away from Infinity War, but at the same time it can set itself up for success. And August is usually a time for scary movies to begin with, so you have the more of the low budget movies coming out, scary movies coming out in August. So an Ant-Man picture in August I think would have been a great time frame for that to get to be shown. And then Captain Marvel, I think instead of having a March frame, if they held that off and do another February release like they did with Black Panther, we saw how well it did with Black Panther, and we're gonna have another February release with Captain Marvel just before Avengers 4. I think that would have been a little bit more timely frame for these movies, and I think in my head, each movie will be able to make its own money that way. So yeah, these how Disney's doing these dates is actually really confuses me. I don't think there's not enough time between them, or too little time between each movie to so that they all have the full effect in the box office here. Now with fans and wanting to have the next Avengers movie, March to Avengers 4. That is a long time, especially for a Marvel movie. This past year we had Thor Ragnarok come out in November, then turn around February we had Black Panther, and then another 2 months later we had Avengers Infinity War. So it's like we're to the point where we're seeing an Avengers movie every 3 to 4 months now. So from March to May, that is a long time for our Avengers movie. So I don't know if it'll hold them over. I think just the all of Avengers 4 coming, just like Infinity War had, and that draw that will have for it being the finale, is, I think that's what's really going to draw. And I do think it's going to keep, no matter where, what time the movie is placed. I think it's going to have a full with the fan base. The fan base is going to go see it no matter what time it's at. So that's my answer to that question here. Thank you very much there. And the last question here comes from Collins. He asks, are the Netflix shows going to be affected by what happens in the movie? I believe you're talking about the Avengers Infinity War and the Netflix TV shows. Do the shows even matter anymore? So that's a two-parter. One, are they going to be affected by what happens in Infinity Wars? I'm going to say absolutely yes. Do I think they're all still alive? Yeah. I don't think the snap killed any of those characters. But yeah, they're obviously going to be affected. I don't think their specific storylines are going to coincide with the movies per se. I don't think they're going to be like hunting down for missing people, or in Jessica Jones' case, trying to find missing people, or anything like that. I think it's just going to be more of a name drop of like they have in the incident that happened at New York, or something similar to that, where or even with like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they have just like one little episode before and one episode after that happens around the events, and then the actual rest of their individual storylines are different from the events that happen in Infinity War. Do the shows honestly even matter? It depends on what you mean by that. I mean, when you're talking about a movie or a TV show, that whether it matters or not, I think if the show has a specific audience that cares for it, obviously it matters to someone. Obviously someone's there to listen to it and watch it, and obviously it affects people to a certain point, that they obviously get views and stuff like that. So say it does it matter or not? Obviously it matters to someone, or else they wouldn't be making them anymore. It depends on. It's a personal question. Do they matter to me? Depends on what show. Honestly, this is a movie review podcast, so I try not to talk about the TV shows all too much. But there's certain TV shows. Yes, I'd be mad if Daredevil got erased with a snap. But if someone like Iron Fist got erased with a snap, I probably wouldn't be too mad. So that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, I mean, to say that they matter or not, yeah. Depends on who you are. There's an audience for this, obviously, or else it wouldn't be on Netflix anymore, or they wouldn't be investing money into these TV shows. So I would say they matter. So yeah. And that's all the questions I have for this show. If you guys want to ask a question for the future shows, I will try to get to at least one or two per after every review that I do. So go ahead and tweet at me at 51st Takes, or email me at 51stakes@gmail.com. All that information is actually on Twitter. If you want to go to Twitter anyways, just hit me a follow button. I appreciate any remarks that you guys have on the show. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and make sure you get those downloads in. This makes me happy seeing that I have some viewership here. But yeah, thank you again for viewing our show. The next show will be, I believe I'll be reviewing the Break-In movie, and that will be dropping next Saturday. I do apologize, this show did not drop on Saturday like I normally do. It's on Sunday. We did have a family pet that unfortunately passed away on us a couple days ago, and you guys know how it is. It's just a very sad time, so I do please ask you to give my family some thoughts and prayers as we go through just a loss of a beloved pet. So on the other note, thank you again for listening, and see you guys next week.